Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this opportunity, I would like to present my thesis entitled Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder and Defense Mechanism in the novel Where the Crawdad Sings by Dira Maharani. Let's begin with the research background. Initially, I would like to talk about the psychological disorder that might be represented in literary work. One of them is post-traumatic stress disorder, about some people who have experienced a shocking, scaring, and dangerous event. Dira Maharani's novel, Where the Crawdad Sing, is trying to show that the trauma in the past can strongly influence someone's personality, representing Catherine Daniel Clark, or Kaya, portraying her as having PTSD. So, based on the explanation, this research focuses on how PTSD affects the main character's personality and the struggle that faced when she wanted to open herself up to other people. The identification problems focuses on Kaya's struggle to overcome the trauma that and what she becomes at the end of her life. I have looked into several related literature. Some of them, as you can see on the slide, the first and the second ones talk about the same material object, and the third, fourth, and the fifth ones talk about the same theory. I have formulated two research questions. The number one, post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental disorder that occurs in a person due to a traumatic experience. What are the causes of post-traumatic stress disorder experienced by Kaya, and what are the symptoms of PTSD in her current life? The second research question is, what defense mechanism does she use to cope with her post-traumatic stress disorder? For the theoretical framework, the scope of this research is to analyze the symptoms of PTSD in Kaya's personality, including the defense mechanism to cope with her PTSD. And for the theoretical framework, I use the perspective of psychoanalytic literary criticism. It is an approach within literary studies that examines literary texts based on psychological theory. Also, since I center on how Kaya suffers from PTSD, therefore it is necessary for me to use Sigmund Freud's theory of personality in analyzing the id, ego, and the superego. The next theory is the defense mechanism, also by Sigmund Freud. As we know, the main character in this novel suffer from PTSD. To counter it, she uses three different strategies. One is denial, the second one is rationalization, and the last one is displacement. Also, the research method is qualitative. The data collected from the novel and related sources, which are analyzed by using descriptive analysis, and the result is represented in a form of a descriptive paragraph. Before analyzing the content of the novel, let us take a look at the preliminary analysis of the novel itself. The key character in the novel is Kaya as the main character. Her traits are introverted, innocent, and depressing. Then Tate, Kaya's boyfriend, initially empathized, a gentleman, and intelligent person. The last one is Ma, Kaya's mother, who always lovingly and caring person. And for the plot, the story begins when Kaya sees her mother leave and realizes her mother abandoned her. During her daily life, Kaya is accused of killing a young man she has a relationship with, but Kaya's confession is not accepted by the court, so she almost goes to the jail. Dira Maharani uses first-person narration to the theme illustrate how psychological issues that can affect someone's life and personality. The setting of time is divided into two periods. First, in the past timeline and the present timeline. Meanwhile, the setting of place is in North Carolina, right in the middle of the swamp where Kayas live. Then we move to the research of the analysis. In line with the research question, in the first part, I discussed the trauma that Kaya has experienced and the symptoms of PTSD in her personality. I argue that there are three traumas that she experiences that cause her to isolate herself. The first trauma is physical abuse. This trauma experienced by Kaya and all her siblings and her mother, perpetrated by her father. There are several scenes where Kaya is very scared as she witnesses the violence committed by her father. After experiencing this trauma, Kaya becomes an introverted person, only talking to her family and feeling unsafe around people. This incident is the main reason for her other traumas. The second trauma is abandonment. This trauma starts when Kaya sees her mother leave home and never return. Her mother decided to leave because she can no longer bear living with the violence committed by Kaya's father. This abandonment is one of the reasons Kaya always feels she doesn't deserve to be loved. The last trauma is childhood neglect. This trauma occurred due to lack of attention from the family, especially from the parents. Kaya doesn't live her days like most children in her age. She never goes to school because on the first and last day at school, she becomes the subject of ridicule among her classmates. As a result, Kaya believes that school is not a place for children who do not have a parent like her. Next, the symptoms of PTSD in Kaya's personality. In analyzing this, I relate Kaya symptoms to personality theory, which establish a connection between symptoms and the id, ego, and superego. The first symptom is intrusive memories. In Kaya's case, she has many bad memories, which is very disturbing for her. One of them is physical abuse. When Kaya has a relationship with a man named Chase Andrew, she experiences physical abuse that make her remember the nightmare of her mother being beaten by her father. Based on that, Kaya is undergoing a flashback of her mother by beaten by her father, and concerning the human personality hypothesis, these symptoms could lead to Kaya's id. Kaya always thinks of her mother and remembers all the good message from her mother when she experienced such a bad thing. Kaya's id manifests as a longing to revisit the positive memories she cherished with her mother in the past. The second one is avoidance. From the previous explanation, it can be seen that Kaya is trying to avoid the incident that happened to her mother again by ignoring Chase Andrew. Recognize this man is lack of moral integrity. Kaya's ego tries to fulfill the demands of her id, which mean she wants someone to overcome her loneliness. However, fulfilling her ego's needs provide difficult due to meeting the wrong man. This prompts Kaya to actively avoid reliving memories and nightmares to prevent a repeat in the future. The last one is changes in physical and emotional reaction. In this case, the changes in physical, Kaya include never dressing neatly and never combing her hair because her mother always do it for her. The emotion changed when Kaya exhibit anger toward Tate. Kaya's superego function in this case to discern moral judgments, facilitating her gradual recognition of Tate's affection for her. Next, I discuss about Kaya's defense mechanism. For coping with the PTSD she experiences, the first action is denial. Kaya tries to forget her traumas by denying the trauma and aiming to improve her life. The second action is displacement. Kaya feels the trauma of abandonment reappear when she realizes Tate never returned to her. So Kaya transforms her loneliness by writing a book about Marsh, insect, and the shells. The last action is rationalization. In this case, Kaya is attempting to uphold her dignity by trusting all her decisions. She chooses to justify her actions of not meeting Tate because she is traumatized by remembering how sad she is when Tate leaves her. She chooses to believe that she's doing it the right thing. In the last part, I concluded that Kaya suffers from PTSD due to her trauma of physical abuse, abandonment, and childhood neglect, and also the problems that Kaya exhibits after enduring these traumas, which are intrusive memories, avoidance, and changes in physical and emotional reaction. Kaya used 3 types of defense mechanism to cope with her PTSD, which are denial, displacement, and rationalizations. Also, for future researchers, I suggest exploring more in terms of psychological approaches, like why Kaya is accused of being the murderer, and why Kaya becomes very interested in writing a book about Marsh. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.